I'm Paul Duchesne, and welcome to Mama Paul's video podcast. Today is Wednesday, January the 21st, 2021. I'm going to do a little bit different today, like I'm doing every other day, something a little bit different. We're going to summarize, or also do a little bit review of Rachael Maddow's show for the last couple of nights. It's been impactful, to say the least, looking at what's been going on in the news with her. Rachael went back to day one of the Trump administration to point out how Corey Lewandowski, who was Trump's campaign manager in 2016, and when Sean Spicer went on television after Trump's inauguration to announce the biggest crowds ever in the history of the campaigns, he was lying, would be the right word, lying. I think they used to call it misinformation. It's lying, period. Well, Corey Lewandowski, a dyed-in-the-wool right-wing Republican who is currently a speaker on One American Network, OAN, and Fox News, and a few other places, went on to blisteringly attack Rachael Maddow for giving out false information. Well, it turns out Rachael Maddow didn't give out false information, and Lewandowski apologized the other day and said that what she said was right in the first place. I don't know what caused the flip in his behavior, but he came out basically and apologized and said that she was right, and it wasn't the largest crowd in American history. On that same theme of the inauguration, that was the inauguration where these guys raised well over I think $100 million. Quite a bit of money was raised for the inauguration, and very little of it was accounted for. And what I've got here is a picture of, that's not Jeff Bezos, although he is in the paper for the same day. U.S. accuses Trump fundraiser of hidden ties. So this guy over here who looks like Jeff Bezos, and is not, he was the chairman of the Inauguration Committee. Now, the vice chair of the Inauguration Committee was Elliot Brody. Elliot Brody was the vice chair. Now, Elliot Brody was he dropped out of the Trump scene around 2018 after the Wall Street Journal published a little bit of an expose about the $1.5 million that he paid to another porn star who he had been having an affair with, and he tried to cover it up. Gee, I wonder where he got the idea to do that from. Maybe his boss. So anyway, on that note, he wound up being dropping out of the administration after they exposed his payoff. And he was also involved in a couple of little minor scandals along the way that had to do with shifting some monies around. But the real big fish here is Tom Barrack. Tom Barrack. That's his little picture, which is above me, right over there. Okay? Yeah. Nope. Over that way. And this is remarkable. Rachael did the story last night, but reading it in the paper is always even more impactful. Rachael will generally do a story, and the next day or 2 days later will wind up in either the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal. Tom Barrack Jr., a close friend of former President Donald Trump, and one of his top 2016 campaign fundraisers, was arrested in California yesterday on federal charges of failing to register as a foreign lobbyist, which also Elliot Brody was also charged with not registering as a foreign agent. Obstruction of justice and lying to investigators. A 7-count indictment against 74-year-old Mr. Barrack, using his access to Trump to advance foreign policy goals of the United Arab Emirates, and then repeatedly misleading federal agents, that's called lying, about his activities during a June 2019 interview. He was basically working for the United Arab Emirates. He's paid $1.5 billion over a 3-year period for his services. And his services included going to the United Arab Emirates, and they were offering to do services before the election even happened, or while the campaign was going on. And then after Trump won the election, then he goes to them and asks for their wish list, what they need for the next 3 months, for the next 6 months, for the next year, for the whole long term. So he's asking them, what United Arab Emirates, what their wish list is for the Trump administration. You can't make this up. This guy's a former fundraiser, and he's the chief financial officer. Oh no, excuse me, I'm reading that wrong. Barack is the latest of the Trump aides who's facing criminal charges. The former Trump organizer and chief financial officer was indicted just last week. His former personal lawyer is pleaded guilty to hush money scandal. Steve Bannon has been indicted. I mean, the list goes on and on. In fact, let's make a quick look. Let's get Brody off of there and bring up the other group. We'll get rid of him, and let's bring up the bigger picture. Where's the group of them here now? Boom, boom, boom. Here they are. Trump World in Trouble. Okay, so we're looking at this picture, and as you can see, you probably recognize your favorite your cast of characters over there, and there's Paul Manafort and Rick Gates and Bannon, and there's Flynn up there and Michael Cohen. Now we've added Tom Brady to this, or Tom Barack to this. The Trump University, the Trump this, Weisenberg is there. One after another, the list keeps getting bigger and bigger, and somehow the swamp doesn't seem to have gotten drained. It seems like they maybe walked out of the swamp and over to the dry land so they could take their limousine back to the Hamptons to finish the summer off, possibly. The other little group, where's the other group? This was the five. These are the five former cabinet members. And there's Azinki and, Wilbur Ross is there. Elaine Chao. You know, Elaine Chao is Mitch McDonald's wife, and she had the connections to China, which is why a lot of people were referring to Mitch McConnell as Hong Kong Mitch a while ago. Elaine Chao is his wife. So things like this run in the family. So we have the corruption with the cabinet members. We've got corruption with the advisors, and last but not least, we then had another story this week with the last group of corruption was the Kraken case, and that's where we've got. There it is. Yeah, and these are the lawyers, and this is really a good one. So we're looking at. There's the Washington Post and two local papers that come out of the Washington area. And they're referring to them as the Kraken lawyers. And the Kraken lawyers are the lawyers that were involved with bringing the suit in Michigan, claiming there was voter fraud. The whole suit is so ludicrous, so absurd, so over the top, that I believe it's the Attorney General started to take a case out against the lawyers for lying in the court and attempting to make a case when there wasn't any case. So she would like to see Sidney Powell. That's one of Trump's major lawyers, Sidney Powell, if you remember her. They would like to get her and 4 others disbarred for lying on these cases and bringing false accusations and false information, and all of this was done for the main purpose of raising money. By taking out the court case, they then advertise that they have a court case, and then they put a donate button next to the riff that they're putting on the internet, and they're raising money. The whole thing's about money. It's all about money. So this Stop the Steal, it's really send me your money. That's what it's about. So we've had at least these few in a row here, and probably a week doesn't go by without, who else do we get in the paper this week? The last one, I guess, would be, there's his famous picture. Yeah, I can't let the week go by without watching Rudy. Too bad we don't see the dye dripping off his his hairdo this week. But he was losing his license in Washington, D.C., and he was already up on charges, and he was already losing his license from last month, temporarily anyway, in New York. So he's lost it in 2 states so far. So maybe goodbye, Rudy, goodbye. He's certainly getting to the edge there, I'll tell you that. And the last one we have to look at would be, it's not exactly the same, well, it's sort of part of the same story, and it isn't. You remember back in I think it was 16, when this story first broke, and there was a meeting at the Trump Tower, and they were trying to make it out like they were talking about getting visas for people who wanted to adopt babies. That was the cover story that they were using. Well, in the middle of this, it turns out that one of the representatives from the United Arab Emirates, who Tom Barack was dealing with, was at that particular meeting, where these people were offering assistance in the social network field to affect the election. So that's what this story goes back to. This goes back to some of the lies that were coming out of the Trump administration during the before they even got in power. So these guys are lying from day one. They're lying today, and they are completely disrupting the whole democratic process through the systems of lying that we're talking about, right after one after another. The other story was the well, I have it sort of over here, and this was the PEGASUS story, and this is just I talked about this the other night a little bit, and well, okay, I don't have it. I didn't make another copy of this, so let's just go back to where we are. What this has got to do with is a software company in Israel, imagine that, called the NSO Group. Apparently they've developed software which can infect phones, iPhones and Android phones. And once it's in the phone, it's not a matter of getting your passwords or anything like that. According to the article, and this is a really well-researched article, actually came out a while ago, but it was just reprinted just the other day, I think on Sunday. And what they're talking about is this software actually gets into the phone and gets in back of everything. So you don't, once it's in the phone, they don't need to break through a password or a code or anything. They have your phone. So if you're on the phone and you're making a phone call, they've got your call. If you're using your camera, they've got your camera. If you're talking into it, they've got your voice. Now, it started off with an investigation into this, which started with it ended up with the Guardian. The Guardian in England has this article posted. So if you go to the Guardian and put in the Pegasus Project, P-E-G-A-S-U-S, you'll get the story over here. And it's a little trying to figure out exactly how many people have been affected here, but they've got a leak that contains a list of 50,000 phone numbers. 50,000 phone numbers. This has been going on since 2016. And they've got 180 journalists. They've got editors and executives from the Financial Times, CNN, New York Times, France 24, that's the TV station in America, The Economist, the Associated Press, and Reuters. All of these, a couple hundred journalists, have had their phones infected with this software. Another phone which appears to have been infected, because it was on their list that they discovered, was from a freelance Mexican reporter who wound up being murdered. He was discovered at a car wash, which they were able to locate him with because of his phone, but they can't definitively prove that it was the software that led the murderers to him. But the Mexican government and Mexican gangs apparently have been buying quite a bit of this software. Now the people in Israel, and you know you can trust these people just like you know as far as you can throw them, they're claiming that the software is only being sold to governments, and it's only being used to go after terrorists and unscrupulous people and gangsters and things like that. Well, it turns out to be the opposite seems to be the case. The majority of the software has been sold to Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Kazakhstan, 3 real vacation spots on your list, I'm sure, Mexico, Morocco, Rwanda, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, a hotbed of democracy, India, Modin, and the United Arab Emirates. These are the main companies who have bought this. These are the 10 major companies that have bought this software. And the claim is that the software is not being used for any of these other anything nefarious, but that seems to be what you would put under the lie category. Again, there's nothing to suggest that NSO customers did not use PEGASUS in terrorism and crime, and the consortium found numbers in the data belonging to suspected criminals. The broad array of numbers belongs to people who seemingly have no connection to criminality, suggesting the NSO, that's the name of the company, are breaching their contract. So the Israeli company is accused of breaching their own contract, breaching their contracts with the company, spying on pro-democracy activists, journalists investigating corruption, political opponents, and government critics. So as in many cases, the exact opposite of what they say they're doing is what is happening. Whew, holy mackerel. PEGASUS, look that one up. That is really, this is, I got so paranoid about this that I used to keep a little, here's my cell phone. I used to keep a little piece of, I put it back on. I had a little piece of paper here, and I would have to put another piece of paper over here to block the camera. I have a little post-it paper on my home computer. I now have one on both sides of my iPad, and now on one side of my phone so far. So, not that I'm totally paranoid, but just a little bit paranoid, and I'll just be cautious and not put out any more, not give them any more than I need to give them. Okay, so we've got the Trump Inaugural Committee bleeding over to basically traitorous corruption going on. I mean, traitorous. This stuff is off the wall. The connections to Russia are just mind-blowing. And this isn't Russia. The Brody connection was to the United Emirates, but the United Emirates wanted to broker cooperation between them and Russia to get Trump elected. That was the connection there with Russia. The United Emirates wanted to broker help with Russia, because they're friends with them, to get Trump in so they could all get benefits from the deal. Okay, that's my little newsy report for the day, and I'm going to switch over to something really, take a look over there. And there's a picture, that's over here, we've got that's Amanda Gorman giving her the Hill We Climb speech. That's over here, this is Zalia Avant-Garde, the spelling bee champ, and also the, well, hold on. Yeah, the spelling bee champ and the world-class dribbler, basketball dribbler and basketball juggler. This woman is really smart. And in one of the interviews, when she was talking about what she was going to do when she was got older, she mentioned 5 major professional types of things, including professional sports player. But she also mentioned, gene editing, and she was commenting about 2 scientists who had won the Pulitzer, and that was inspiring her to want to do that kind of work also. This kid could do anything. And this other gal over here, the spirit of Ubuntu, which has got to do with I Am a Girl from Africa, is actually what the book is about. All 3 of them in this bright yellow. So she wore the yellow outfit first, and then Zalia was the second one with the yellow outfit on, and then the third one over here So I had these three pictures of these three activists, young black activists, all standing out with their yellow outfits on, yellow color. And then in today's paper, one more, we do it, let's move up there. And here's this other gal here who is, she's not a kid, this is Nina Turner, and she's a progressive candidate from the state of Ohio who is hoping to overturn or overthrow the more traditional candidate, the Turner, who embodies the reserve mold of leaders in Washington, shaped more by the establishment, she's trying to overturn the establishment in Ohio. And interestingly, they use the word establishment in the paper, which you don't really see used too often. It's sort of like kicking yourself in your own butt, and the New York Times used it there today, referring to it. So anyway, those four, I would say yellow is the color for young black activists or middle-aged black activists, but they all look absolutely terrific, and they're all stars in their own realm, and we look forward to more of this type of activity. Peace, patience, persistence, and we'll see you as soon as we can. Thanks for joining. Bye.